This fight, I had a Crossverses battle for y'all tonight too, because I gotta show up for Bleach on Monday. So, Asnodt versus Uliqquoria Shifa, right? We know that Asnodt has his Rift F, and he's a Stern Ritter, right? He has, all those, qualities of Quincy. He has Blue Vein. He has, his Shrift, which is able to, basically invoke fear within his opponent and, like, basically um, get them to be aware of their, what they're fearful of, and then he basically manipulates them from that. He controls the fight that way by getting in their head and fucking with them like that. So, but this character he's fighting is a person who's like void of feeling, because that's Uliqquoria, and his aspect of death was nothingness, the void, right? He's a like true hollow in that, like, he's always, killing other shit so he can like try to fill that void. He's trying to consume and become more powerful so he can start feeling shit. And that's why hollows do what they do, because they're seeking to fill that hole, but they never do. It's just part of being a hollow. They just like to, kill other things, do that kind of shit though. But they, do serve a purpose for like the balance of the whole, and other things. We ain't getting into all that shit, right? But Uliqquoria, right? He was spotted number 4. We are gonna have one scenario for this. They're gonna be fighting in the Don guy precipice, where, between the world of, the living and, wake up window. So physical strength, I'm gonna give that to Asnodt. Uliqquoria Shifa has 3 forms: his base form, Resurrection, stage 1, and then he has the second stage, right? And that actually, helps him out in this fight. Because when we're talking about pure speed, we got Uliqquoria with that. I wouldn't say Asnodt is fast, but I'll say that like the effects of his like ability can take root like quickly for like other people, but not for this character. This character, like I said, we know that um Uliqquoria is void of fear for a little bit, but guess what? He is fearful of one thing, and that's being exterminated by somebody. Once he finds out that this guy's a Quincy, he's like, "Oh fuck, I can't like lose to this guy, because if I do, I'm gone. Like, there's no trace of me like left. My Reishi's then taken and used for it to like fuel his power, and like there's no like my energy going, somewhere else. The possibility of reincarnating or something else, that goes out the window. It's not something that happens. He just is gone forever. Now, speed goes to Uliqquoria. Durability goes to Asnodt. Durability, Asnodt has Blue Vein, right? So that allows him to, survive slashing attacks and certain strikes that are not too powerful. Endurance, I want to give it to Uliqquoria though. Why? Because he's been in fights that have lasted longer than Asnodt has, at least been shown. Intelligence, I'm going to give it to Asnodt, by he understands that he cannot take this, the abilities of this being called a spotter, a hollow, that would actually be, that would be of detriment to him. For him to absorb a resurrection, he does bunkai plundering, but not that. He can't steal, Uliqquoria's, resurrections. That's not gonna be able to happen. But Uliqquoria has experience too. I'd say slightly, over Asnodt. Close skills, Uliqquoria. Uliqquoria He'll have to come in close to attack Asnodt. But I give the range skills to Asnodt. Why? Because he shoots arrows. He shoots those arrows, because all the Quincy's can do shit like that. But once he is, touched, Uliqquoria, and he starts to understand that this is not just a battle like it is against the Soul Reapers. That starts getting into his fucking head and shit. Once he's in his head and shit, then he can start using his Shrift on him. Now it's gonna take some time because Uliqquoria is kind of mentally tough, to some degree, but he's still like, what is it? He's a hollow, and this is a Quincy, and Quincy's do on hollows as well. So, this fight's gonna be, one of those tough ones for him. Range skills go to Asnodt, and Uliqquoria has range skills too. But these range skills that Mister Asnodt uses, even when he's in bond standing, right? He shoots those arrows at out of nowhere, and he can keep shooting those if he wants to. You know, he can fuck with his head from a distance. Say he backs off, he's still like being affected by a strip. So now Uliqquoria still has the regen over Mister Asnodt, and he does. That was kind of Ukiyoda's thing. He had high speed regeneration. You know, Hacks Asnodt has the axe. When he's given his shrift, he has, like I said, the Blue Vena. So we understand that the spotters, they have tough skin. All of them have tough skin for the most part. But this is like man, it's even tougher. Can't break through that you know as easily. Blue Vein. And that's just one of the moves, right? He has the Boss Dandy. That's when he's like not masked up anymore, and he has that. Oh my god, like he looks like a fucking demon. Because he is. When he uses that. Um, then he has his thrift ability, which once those feelings of fear creep in, it's like it's there, and it's like it takes over you, and it like consumes you, and there's no fighting that. But what I'm saying is, in this fight, Ukiyo is wanting to like fight that shit off for a little bit because he is void of like emotions and feelings and shit like that. But the survival instincts of like wanting to survive and shit like that, and wanting to like keep persisting, existing to like try to like fill that void or whatever, even though that would never happen. But the possibility and all that, he doesn't want to die, so he's gonna like be fearful of that, and then that's ultimately gonna get him because Ukiyo does think about things. Environment goes to Asnodt, and I think the Garganta has like certain properties of like because they live in the shadows and shit. The Quincy's, they live in the shadows. They go through the bar belt. And the Garganta is not that, but it's like similar to that in a way. You know, it's a bridge between those worlds, but you don't know it exists. It's like there, and it's just you know, if you have to like use those routes, but people living in those other places and don't use it, like they don't know it's there. They don't really fuck with shit like that too much. They usually stay in that fucking place, right? They stay in Wakamundu, they stay and that's like, as a whole, Soul Reapers be using that shit the most. But I would think that Asnodt has the advantage there, and that's just me. So overall, when this fight's all said and done, I give it to Asnodt wins, high difficulty. Because of, Ukiyora's, voidness, he doesn't feel like any kind of emotions or like anger, sadness, and shit like that. So it's gonna be hard to like get him to, be fearful of anything. So the only thing he can fear is being, erased. That's the only thing he could really fear. And then, but once that does kick in, it's going to kick in. He's going to start to slow down, and then Asnodt can take control of this fight. But that's what I think. The blue vein also helps. Mr. Asnodt out in this fight. Durability, and, like. But it's an interesting fight, and I want to know what you guys think about it. Who you think wins? And with this second resurrection, that actually makes it closer than what it would be if it wasn't. Because like if he didn't use it, if he only had one resurrection, it would actually be a mid diff, almost low diff fight. Since he does have that second resurrection, he's quicker. It's gonna last longer. And then, like I said about be cool, crawl in the corner. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section.